Just checking that we are live. Sweet. Just gonna bail out of all my little Facebook tabs so I don't get that audio notifications and all that sort of stuff. You literally look like you're sitting up in hospital bed, mate.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my mum's office. She's got a straight chair because I can't bend or anything at the moment.
Wow. It's good fun. Things you do.
Yep.
So, if you're tuned in at the moment, we'd love you to be able to press the share button on here, which allows us to be able to obviously get the message out as much as we possibly can about Tom's journey and what he's been up to. And just let us know as well. Kayla Marie is the first person to tune in. Just let us know if our audio is working, which I don't think it wouldn't be. So just share it if you get a chance. I know that Tom's just done that on his own. Basically his own Facebook racing page. So get around Tom Drane Racing as well. Hello, Kevin Titman. Good to see Kevin is tuned in, a massive supporter of Australian motorsport as well. Kevin's got his really cool new company that he's been working on up in Queensland as well. So Tommy and I actually met very, very briefly at the Knoxville Nationals. It was like to the point where I almost missed introducing the final night of the field doing the anthems and all the pageantry because I was standing in the back of the trailer talking with you, bullshitting about AMA flat track racing because that's what you do. So anyway,
Yeah.
good opportunity for us to find out what you've been doing, Tommy, and what's been going on. Because for those of you who don't know, so Tom's born and bred in Forbes in New South Wales, which is near Parks, which is where everyone, if you're an Aussie, you associate the Elvis Festival and the Dish, the whole movie The Dish, and all that good stuff. But um, you've been doing phenomenal things since 2023 in the progressive AMA Flat Track Championship, which for people outside the US, Tom, they probably don't understand just how big AMA racing is in the States. It's pretty well been a staple diet for motorcycle racing on dirt 50, 60 years probably.
Yeah, no,
Probably
for sure. It's
longer.
really big over there. Yeah, so like all the flat track stuff over in the States is probably double what we have here in Australia, and there's like a lot more opportunity over there too, with like big teams being involved and all that stuff, and a good way to like it's a lot better for trying to make a living out of it than what it is here in Australia.
It's a phenomenal discipline because you race on, speedways effectively, what Aussies call speedways. Americans don't call speedways necessarily, but you race on various sizes from quarter miles to miles, which is just mind-blowing in itself. But you've also got a discipline as well that includes actually jumping and all sorts of stuff with motorcycles that are not geared up necessarily to be doing that kind of thing. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
versatility involved in all this, Tom.
Yeah, no, for sure we do. So have short tracks, which is like be like a lot smaller than most of these Aussie tracks we race. And they're like that's probably for me the hardest I've struggled with because I've never done
Yeah.
nothing like it. And then now I've got a lot better and I've actually won a few now, so that was really good. And to get when won my first short track, that was one of my best achievements because it was so much like different from what we have here in Australia, and to be able to get that done was good. And then we also have half miles, which is most like sprint car tracks and all
Yeah.
that stuff, half miles. And then miles, which is one of my favorite because it's more like drafting. You got to use your head a lot more, bit of technique involved in it. And then TTs, where we have a right hander in it and also a jump.
And the guys on the twins in particular, they're jumping motorcycles that you initially, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're set up to be doing that kind of thing, but that's not stuff that the everyday man would just get on a TT situation and ride a twin and get air and be the speeds and the variations you're doing there.
Yeah, no, definitely the twins class. It's a lot harder on the bikes, jumping and stuff. But 450 is not too bad because it's a motocross bike. That's where it's built from. And the suspension, we just don't have as much travel, which is that's what hurts us a bit. But definitely the twins class, it's a lot harder for them on the TTs and stuff. Like Peoria, we're jumping a fair way there. I think it's like nearly 110 feet or something, how far we land down the jump. So it's definitely a big jump. And then the speed you carry. like riding on like the TT tracks and stuff where Peoria, you're carrying so much speed to the jump there, where it sort of makes you feel like it is like the bike when we launch off it, your suspension bottoms out so hard because it doesn't have the travel and stuff like a standard motocross bike would.
The one of the greatest movies of all time is on any Sunday. And I'm pretty sure you would have watched it over and over like I have. I just love the Mert, like that really legendary slow-mo stuff of them on the mile and just like and Steve McQueen, the movie star is in the movie as well. But it does profile a lot of AMA flat track racing.
Yeah, no, for sure, because it's flat track sort of where all the racing started back in the day and everything progressed from there. Like it used to be really big back then.
And Tom, it's interesting for me because America's had a lot of world speedway champions, but speedway isn't overly big in the US, and that's always surprised me for as many, world champions as America has had. The Pennols, the Morans, the Ermolenkos, the Schwartz, Pennols, all these amazing Greg Hancocks, and these kind of icons of world speedway. And yet it's predominantly the smaller, West Coast stuff in California and that sort of area. But probably the reason Speedway is not bigger is because AMA is so huge.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like here in Australia, you hear about Speedway all the time, and I actually used to race a little bit of Speedway back when I was younger, and it's really big here. But over in the States, you don't really hear of it really at all. Like
Yeah.
I've never gone to like a Speedway race over there or seen anything over there. Where here, it's like there's one nearly on all the time.
I mean, AMA flat track is almost like NASCAR of motorcycles in terms of its cult following, like that people have followed that, and you go back to some of that mile stuff where the flagmen are like jumping and flipping on the main straight, and there's the Sacramento mile, the Springfield mile, all those amazing events. But it's been a phenomenal year for Aussie motorcycling, like on the world stage. Like when you look at just a couple weekends ago, last weekend, in fact, we had the Speedway of Nations, Australia won that. The Motocross of
Yep.
Nations, Australia won that. You've just wrapped up an AMA championship over there. Sam Prashir has just wrapped up a Hare and Hound championship over on the West Coast. There's just so many Aussies over there starring on the world stage.
Yeah, no, for sure. This year's been a great year for Aussies. We've dominated a lot of different sports and stuff over in America. And like just watching last weekend, I was watching the MX of Nations on TV, and the Lawrence brothers just were dominating there too. And then it's cool to see Australia go back and get another win again this year, just like last year.
That's in the 24 hours between Poland, when we won the Speedway of Nations, and Indiana, where we won Motocross of Nations. That's got to be the single most successful 24 hours in Aussie motorcycling history, I would think, on an international stage. We are a superpower in that. From an AMA point
Yeah.
of view, though, Tommy, it's really yourself and Maxi Whale that are the two sort of trailblazers for this sort of stuff. When did you decide that you wanted to go over and start racing flat track, and how hard was that to go from an Aussie with a shitload of track credentials? You've won a lot of national championships and state titles, but flat track racing, with all due respect, is nowhere near as big here as it is in the States, is it?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like back here in Australia, I've won like multiple titles here and Australian and state titles, and they sort of like they do mean stuff to me, but then it's like I didn't really, when I did win them, it doesn't feel like it's that good because I didn't really get nothing back for it. Like yeah, I win the title, whatever, and it's okay. But then going over to America, I went over in 23, and like you've actually got to win six, like you got to have the most points over the 16 rounds of the year to be crowned champion, and that's what like makes it like to me feel more like you actually really have to earn it. Where
Yeah,
here in Australia, it's a four-lap race that determines who's the Australian champion. Where
yeah,
that sort of for me, it's like it's sort of hard because you could have a really good day and you could have a bad day. Where over in America, you've got to perform every time. You can't go out there and like go bad one day and then just go good the next and then wrap up a championship. You've got to be there every single day. And to
yeah,
be able to do that is definitely a lot harder. And I enjoyed it a lot more. And it was like when I first went over to the States, I went out, I got second in my first race and I got my name out there a bit. And it was pretty cool to do that and sign with Estenson the next year. And like I got a like shock to me the start of 23. I went out and I come fifth in my first race, and I was pretty happy with that. And then the next two or three races, I didn't make top 10, and I was like really struggling with
Yeah.
it, and it put me a lot down in the championship. But I figured it out. I won Sacramento Mile that year, and then from there on, I started really improving and getting up there. I ended up second in the championship that year, but just if I was a bit better at the start of the year and was a bit more consistent up front, I could have done it in my first year. But it sort of showed me that I had to be good at everything. I couldn't just be good at the one track or only have to last, and I had to have fitness because I had to races are a lot longer. So it
Yeah.
taught me a lot. Yeah, now to wrap up my first championship this year was amazing. I like had a really good year. Didn't I only got off the podium once, so I had to just be fully like consistent as much as I could all year, and I was able to wrap it up 2 rounds early, which I was really happy with.
Absolutely. We're going to claim them. SVG, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen's kicking ass in
Yeah.
NASCAR, although he's come from supercars. Scotty McLaughlin is kicking ass in IndyCar racing. So it's not just the two-wheel side of things that we're talking about here with Aussie, really at the forefront. How do the Americans go with an Aussie kid? And Max Wales been doing a great job as well. How do the Americans go with a couple of Aussies kind of infiltrating the truly American apple pie of motorcycling and winning?
Yeah, no, like this year was the first year for me. Like I was the first ever international rider to actually win a
Wow.
flat track championship. So that was really big. And like when I first come over, I saw people like no one really wanted to. They didn't make it easy on me, like say it that way,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
first
yeah.
little bit. Once everyone sort of got to know me a bit more, and I showed that I'm like good rider, and they all started to get a bit of respect for me. And then now it's pretty good, and we're every like I'm mates with a lot of them, and it's a lot of fun. And same with Max, like we got a lot of mates over there, and everyone respects us now.
So you've got a great sprint car connection, mate. Estenson Racing is very heavily connected and very involved in sprint car racing. So that's kind of where you and I sort of bumped into each other. And I was ripping through the pits at the Knoxville Nationals, and people kept coming up to me, "Hey, the kid from Australia's here that just is about to win the AMA Flat Track Championship." I'm like, "What?" Everyone sort of gravitated to me to come grab you, and we had a quick little chat, but I didn't get my brain around what you're achieving because the profile of AMA down here isn't as big as we need it to be. So explain to Aussies, what you've achieved. How many rounds do you do? How long does the schedule go for? And how did the Estenson thing come about?
Yeah, so our round we have this year was 16 rounds. Haven't seen next year's calendar yet, but the it's normally around that 16 to 18. I think my first year was 18 rounds
Yeah.
that they have every year. So we sort of it's a big schedule, and then we go from like all around America. So we'll be on California, and we'll be like Daytona. We start the year off there, and we travel a lot throughout the year. So and
That's
there's a lot of
wild.
different tracks.
You just go,
Yeah.
Daytona, you just rattled that off, Daytona, we started there, like, holy cow, man.
It's
Like, Daytona Speed Weeks is massive.
yeah. So like we start, it's normally the 500, the car race goes first, and then Supercross comes, and then we're normally the week after Supercross, we'll race the short track, and then the 200 will be on the weekend after us for the road racing. So it's starts off the year down in Daytona with everyone. It's real cool for bike week down there. Lots of people, and yeah, it's a really cool experience.
So 16 races or 16 rounds, 16 race weekends in what period of time? How many months?
We start in March and finish around September.
Okay.
Normally that's how it's been our schedule for the last 2 years.
I imagine it's a much bigger industry than people realize. You'd have factory teams and things like that rolling in with some pretty significant race haulers and stuff like that, Tom.
Yeah, no, for sure. We Red Bull KTM was in it. They actually pulled out this year. They were, no, it might have been last year they pulled out. But with Red Bull KTM, like Max rode for them, they were in. We got our team, the Essence and Race and Monster Energy Yamaha team. We've got like a big semi that carts all our bikes and stuff around. And then
Yeah.
there's a team. There's plenty of teams, and there's a Husky team as well, and that's really good like for the sport to have all them people there, and hopefully it keeps starting to grow and get more and more people as well.
What were your impressions of the Knoxville Nationals, mate?
I It was like incredible to see how many people like filled the stands and stuff there, and like it was just so like well ran how they're just on like everything was just like ran perfectly there. And then we've all like the fans was incredible how many fans filled into like a and
Yeah.
when into that little town really like when we first come in there's like
Yeah.
not really much there and then there's this big track right there in the middle and like there was so many people there.
What's the biggest event you ride at?
Um Springfield Mile's normally pretty big. Like we normally fill the stands there. This year we didn't have as many people, but normally the years prior we've had like full crowds there. And then Ventura, one over in California, we have a track right on the beach. It
Wow.
normally sells out every year. It's pretty full. So yeah, there's a couple big ones, but like the miles used to like normally get the most people.
So the Ventura Raceway, the Ventura Speedway, that's where you race? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right beside the water. It's a really cool venue.
Yeah, it's wild how close it is to the ocean. They have some
Yeah.
phenomenal, midget or speed car racing and sprint car racing there for non-wing stuff and things like that. So, is it possible for privateers to compete competitively with the factory teams, Tommy? Are there kids rolling out off an open trailer and riding with you guys, or is there a big difference between performance equipment?
No, that's like why flat track, you could come out like just live out your van and you can win races pretty easy. Like like for bigger teams, it's not as much more of an advantage to having someone just come out of their running out of their van or whatever because flat track's like so different. It's a bit different in motocross where the top guys are that much better and they like dominate. Where in flat track we could have a different winner every single race if it was to be. But it's like my first year when I come over, I brought a bike from Australia, actually in an esky over, and we had a bike like the motor was in the esky, had the bike in a bag, packed it all, brought it all over, put it together, and raced at Springfield Mile, and I actually qualified, I think third, and won the dash for cash, and it ended up getting rained out, but it was going to be really good, and then same at Lima, I brought one of my own bikes over and was able to come second.
I imagine that you had to explain to Americans what an esky is, and it's nice that Essence and Racing, I think, are sharing this a bit at the moment. Mitch Byn has just tuned in saying that you actually did some laps at the Lake Liddell Speed Bowl a little while
Yeah.
back as well, which is super cool that Mitch recalls that. But
Yep.
the communication barrier at times, because Aussies don't roll our R's, right? So we don't say burger, we say burger. So there's a lot of things that, I sympathize with Aussies that spend a lot of time over there because you do have to adapt the way you speak with some words because we get used to the way we're talking now, particularly when you get around Aussies, but you have to slow down a lot of things that you say. What have been the differences between culturally with communicating with the team?
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad. They've all picked up on our Aussie accent a lot because my dad and my brother live over here in the States with me, and it like our whole team sort of like they all pretend to talk Aussie to us now, and
Yeah,
they've actually picked up what we're saying and they start saying it. But when I first come over to the States, like just trying to talk to some people like just
yeah.
anywhere, they were always like never understand what I was saying, and sometimes they still don't, but now like our whole team sort of I can talk to anyone and they'll be know exactly what I'm saying.
It's funny because we don't sound to each other like we've got an accent, right? So it always blows me away when we're over there that they're just going, like, what? And they're like, how can you not understand what I just said? Like, it's perfect English to us, but the
Yeah.
reality is, that it's not over there. Mate, Jet Lawrence, Hunter is a phenomenal talent. Jet is just a freak. Like, just the things he's
Yeah.
doing with a motorcycle. I think Jet and Hunter are doing this incredible thing for Australian motorsport that people outside motocross and supercross don't understand.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's crazy what they're achieving over there and like all the level over there, like Jet's definitely made the level a lot higher and he's made everyone have to step up their game. Like Tomac this year had to push so hard to even
Mm.
stay kind of close to him that and he get hurt doing it. So Jet's definitely done a real good job of like just bringing that level up a lot.
There's a lot of obviously media hype between Deegan and him, and that's not even a battle really that's happening yet because Deegan's not riding in the 450s yet, and he's going to do that next year. But are there Deegan style personalities in AMA, mate? Like, what are the riding profiles and personalities like in flat track?
There's probably no one to like Deegan's level that sort of does any of that stuff. We're all like most of us all pretty much get along and we're all sort of just more casual guys, I guess. And then there's like no like there has been rivalries where like definitely me, I've had a couple with some other guys like didn't really speak much and always were battling hard out in track, but nothing to the point where anyone would want to like clean anyone out. But it does happen sometimes if it goes like this. I've been taken out before, but it's just sort of bad luck and it's racing where you just got to move on and be able to like continue on and figure out other ways to get around it. But there hasn't like there's definitely some people have some rivalries and stuff going on, but there's nothing to like that say Deegan level where he was taking people out and stuff, anything like that.
Yeah, that was that last Supercross was kind of phenomenal in Vegas. Like there was whew, a lot of talk going on with that. I went to spend some time with the Lawrence boys down in Zephyr Hills, as it's called, where their dog pound is, where their phenomenal riding facility is. But I hung out with a
Yeah,
young guy called Blake Thomas, who's a young Queenslander, whose mum and dad have basically relocated to live in Florida. His mum lives with him and full time at one of the Lawrence boys' properties. But that's what it takes, right? So Blake is an amateur. They're trying to take him through. He's riding Loretta Lynn's and stuff like that. But his family have pretty well had to relocate his mum there full time. And it sounds like you're doing that with your dad and your brother, where you can't do it from Australia. You've got to go over there and support have a support network. That must be tough on mum too.
yeah, no, for sure. It's really tough on mum because she's got to stay here and look after the house and run our business our family has. So it's definitely really tough on her, and she only gets to come over twice a year. So she definitely, it'd be nice if she could come over there more, but it is what it is, and she has to stay home and do all that stuff. But it's good to at least have dad and my brother over there for the year because like my brother's, he's coming up through the ranks now, and hopefully he can go pro next year. But he's been doing a lot of road racing as well, so. He actually got third this year in the Talent Cup series, the new like
Yeah.
junior class bringing up like road races. And so it's good to have Sam, my brother, over there with me and my dad because like dad too, been away from work so much, it's really tough on him. So it's good where he can help us out as much as he can, and he had to sacrifice that, like put away work just so he could help me and my brother. And then it's also good to have him like to train with as well. Don't really get like bored then. Have someone pushing me along just as much.
Yeah, absolutely. You race in the singles category, single. The next step up in the big leagues, or the F1 of the deal is the twins. Is that where you ultimately want to head to? And what's the difference in terms of what you can earn? I don't mean don't tell me individual figures, but the difference between a singles prize money when you say pro compared to twins. Is there a significant difference, Tommy?
Yeah, it's pretty much double whatever you can
Wow.
make on like the 450 class, it doubles to step up to a twin. So yeah, it's definitely you can make a lot more money that way. And then also like the twins classes like got the best guys in there, all the best are there, and that's where hopefully one day I want to get to. I got to do my first ever twins race at Springfield Mile. I got a wild card there and step up. So that was like awesome. And ended up, I think I was third fastest in practice, I think. And then I ended up qualifying, got third in my heat, qualified on the second row. And I was running in the top group in the race. But unfortunately, the bike broke. But I was having like some of the most fun I've ever had until that point.
People don't understand the speed that you're doing around the mile. There's some phenomenal, if you YouTube stuff like Jay Springsteen and Chris Carr and those guys where they literally just tuck down on it, on a mile and have the grab rail, they reach down on the chassis and just stay
Yeah.
like just tapped out and then into a corner where the groove is probably maybe two or three bike widths
Yeah.
wide, and then it just marbles to a guardrail. It's phenomenal the risk that's involved in the speed.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like on the twin, I think we were up to 240 kilometers an hour. Where the 450, I think I got 200 kilometers an hour on the mile. But yeah, the twin's definitely a little bit faster. And like on the 450, I pull my hand off, put it down, and tuck in much as I can. But twin's a bit bigger bike and moves around a lot more. I was like, oh, I'm keeping both hands on the bars on this. And it was still like the twin riding that around the mile was like insanely cool and racing with some of the best guys too. It was a lot of fun.
I've seen videos and I can't recall where from, where the pack is so close at times when they're tucked in and they're hanging onto the gut to the chassis rail. There's been times when if they've got too close, someone's had to lean over and just tap them and go, "Hey, I'm right here." Like you are so close at that point. So there has to be respect amongst your riders, mate, because it's life and death stuff sometimes, Tommy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely, everyone's got to have respect for each other because it is pretty dangerous, and we ride really close to each other on miles and stuff because you got to get every bit of draft you can on, like, say, a 452 because it's not like a road race bike where it's got all the aero and the fairings or anything. It's a motocross bike, so you got to get in behind people as much as you can to get the best draft you can, and that brings like groups of say 12 or 13 riders to the front group, and it'd be just a big pack. So you got to definitely have respect for each other, so nothing bad happens, and like you can't just go pulling out and swerve, and you've got to stay in line and stuff. So yeah.
Thank God for team owners, mate. Obviously, the Estenson Racing team has given you a huge opportunity. I mean, I doubt very much that your mum and dad want to fund your full-time career, where you have your own team and things like that. Are there any figures out there that people that you hear that say it costs a $500,000 to run a team, for a year, or is it an expensive sport?
Yeah, it's definitely like depends how big your team is too, and if you're running like twins and singles. Like our team definitely spends a lot because they had to develop their twin, where there is like bikes out there where you can go and just buy a frame, put the motor in it, and that's there. Where there is like teams like ours and the Honda team where they've had to develop the whole bike, and it costs a lot more that way, but it's definitely good for the sport to get more manufacturers in and stuff doing that, but. Definitely like the 450 side, and that is it is fairly cheap to like run a 450 for a year. It's not like crazy expensive, but definitely like twins is definitely a lot more expensive, but you can do stuff like buy the frame from a certain one and put a certain motor in to keep it cheaper and be able to afford the year. But it's also good too because you can if you make the main event on a twin, you get paid all the way back to last in the main. So
Okay.
that way to help teams by getting actually making some money.
I watched just from the outside, I watched the schedule that the Lawrence boys have, which is pretty like it's 0.0001% of what people how they live their lives, right? Well, they'll race on the Saturday, on the Sunday they'll fly back to Florida and they'll train, they'll get on a bike, say Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that, and then they start to work towards getting back on a plane and flying back to the next event. How do you train for flat track racing? Is it a lot of endurance work that you do in the gym? Do you get much time for that? Or is it just nothing that compares to being on the bike, Tom?
No, I like do a fair bit of gym and running and cycling and stuff throughout the week, and then also like biggest one for me is being on a bike. I find works the best for me, so I try to do as much like we have a lot of outlaw racing in between all the
Oh,
races, so I go do as many of them as I can.
yep.
Try to like make good money doing them as well, so I go do a lot of them, and then also ride a lot of like motocross and turn track stuff throughout the weeks to
Okay.
just keep on top of my fitness and it's all like all that stuff's good bike skill, so everything helps.
So does Speedway can that possibly give you, is all bike time good time, or does Speedway to some degree maybe not help you? Like if you play squash, you don't often play tennis because the two
Yeah.
disciplines are all different in the wrist, right? So in Speedway, where you're kicking a thing in, is that working against you, where you need to keep the front wheel in line a bit with flat track, or can you do both?
Speedway is definitely a fair bit different than flat track because it's sort of more you got to be just aggressive with the throttle and get the wheels spinning. Where flat track we want the opposite. We want to be hooked up and going forwards. So that part of it's a lot different, and it's a lot different like throttle control between the two. So it's definitely a bit different. Flat track's probably more like road racing with throttle control and stuff because you got to be smooth. You can't just give it everything and because it won't like hook the tire to the ground. You'll just spin it up. So you and another way to go forwards is getting it hooked up. So that's like probably the main difference.
As you sit here with your Monster Energy hat on, you kind of remind me a bit of Jack Holder, mate. You've got that sort of same look. I would imagine that over the years you've probably ridden against the Holder boys and stuff like that at Appen and places like that. What were your early years of flat track like?
Like my first started back here in Australia, I think I was 2 when I started riding a bike, and then
Yep.
started racing flat track when I was 4, and then I think I stepped up when I stepped up to a 65 around 7, I think it was,
Yep.
when I started like racing competitively and stuff. And I like from a young age, like I won a lot of like Australian titles and all that stuff growing up. But then I only really got to do one or two senior races before I went over to America. So I was pretty good for all the junior ranks, but when I stepped up to the senior, I only ever did one Australian title, and I ended up winning that one and New South Wales Championship, and I think I won there too. But like I always, when I come home, I always do a bit of flat track racing back here in Australia with like the Aussie flat track Nats and do Brisbane Cup at the end of the year. There's normally a few big names like Jack Miller and everyone that come
Yeah.
over to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in terms of your bike setup and things like that, Tommy, I imagine you've got a crew chief or a bike chief that works on these things. Is it fundamentally suspension that is the big thing? I mean, is everybody about the same speed with motors and things like that? Is it about how the bike compresses and the balance you get out of a bike? Is that where, a really great bike chief can help you?
Yeah, definitely. I got my crew chief, Dustin Says. He's been like I've had him now for 2 years. I had a different guy at the start of my first year, but he's been with me the last 2 years, and we've got to know each other a lot and started working really good. And he understands what I want from the bike now, so it's been good that way. But sort of flat track, the suspension makes a big difference, and then mile racing is where you need the motor. But for TT, half mile, and short track, everyone's motor is probably about the same there, and it like you don't really need something with a lot of power because you've actually got to be able to hook it up. Where
Yep.
mile, because it's so much faster, you need a good motor. But for the rest of the tracks, you don't really need as much of the motor, but you just need the suspension working really good so you can have the bike hooked up and working to your advantage there.
There's always a danger that I say something, I don't know where I got it from in my brain and it's not accurate, but I think I remember hearing that Kenny Roberts and Kevin Schwantz and all those guys that were phenomenal on, or 500cc world champ because it wasn't known as MotoGP back then. But I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
all those guys had a foundation of racing flat track for years and years to learn throttle control and bike control. Do people reach a certain age, Tommy, where they start to look to head to black track or do other things on motorbikes, or is there just when you want to be a flat tracker, that's all you want to be?
No, there's people that go from flat tracking to road racing and stuff, but there's also like the hardcore flat trackers that's all they do. So like I've done a fair bit of road racing like the last couple of years before I signed with the team. I was on a did like Asia Talent Cup and also last year road racing rode a 600 and I think I ended up fifth in the Australian Championship. But like I used to do a lot of road racing and definitely my flat track helps my road racing and then road racing also helped me with flat track. So because
There's been a few lady races that I've been noticing over the last couple of years. Seems like there's some really great girls that are real throttle girls as well.
yeah, no, Shayna Texter, she actually had the most singles wins until last year. Cody has the most now, but I'm tied second with her in the most all-time singles wins. But yeah, she was like incredible how good she was, and she's really fast. And I think my first year she beat me quite a few times when I was first getting into it. She's retired now, but it was she's like really good rider.
Yeah, there's no shame in being towed up by Shayna because, like you said, she's one of the icons of the sport. Are a lot of the old legends of the game still around? You know that you see them in the pits at different events, and are you aware of who those sort of forefathers of the sport are? I think I saw a thing just only today that like Mert is like 85 years old or something like that today, who's one of the gods of flat track racing. You know, the Chris Carrs and Springers and people like that. Are they still around the game?
You definitely see a couple of them coming around every now and then. Most races you actually see Chris Carr. He's always hanging around. And then there's definitely like I've seen Kenny come to a couple,
Yep.
and they always come around and hang around a little bit.
I remember going to a race at Black Hills in South Dakota near Mount Rushmore in back 94, 95, something like that. We watched the flat track AMA. It was called AMA Grand National Harley Racing or something back then. That was 30 years ago. But bumping into Chris Carr at the airport, at Denver Airport or something the next day. And he was such a cool dude. Like he was just a little guy, but just, obviously very driven and very committed because let's face it, mate. You have to be a different breed of cat to succeed at an elite level flat track racing. You gotta be wired up a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, for sure. Like that track you're talking about, Black Hills, it's one of my favorite tracks as well. I won there last year and second the year before, and it was a big half mile, and definitely like a track like that, you need to understand more because it definitely requires a bit of throttle control in the corners there because it gets like real slippery, so you can't like be
Yeah.
feeding it a heap of throttle. You gotta be like tell yourself you can only give it this much. Like sometimes you'll be like, oh, this feels so weird, not giving it any throttle, but that's the fastest way to go around. So
I think at the time it was around Sturgis time. So, it was timed in that, and I think the AMA concentrate on doing that where they keep the motorcycle industry around those events. And, a good example is the Florida thing, the Daytona Bike Week situation where they keep people that love those kind of motorcycles in that area. So it's pretty clever the way they market it.
yeah, no, for sure. Like we do the Daytona Bike Week and then the Sturgis Bike Rally. This year we had three races out there, and yeah, like they do a good job of that, like putting the races out there with big stuff like that to get the fans to come in for sure.
Cool. I just noticed that Jamie Stouffer is tuned in at the moment, and Daniel and Jamie were phenomenal flat trackers because that Curry area, that whole Coalfield sort of, part of Newcastle, Hunter Valley areas churned out. Chad Reed's a really great example, but there's a lot of really great dirt races, and Jamie and Daniel went on to phenomenal road racing careers as well. So um, it's probably a sport that you can come back to every now and again in Australia and just keep yourself sharp and ride flat track whenever there's an event nearby, I would think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I always, when I come back here to Australia, do as much flat track racing as I can. Like Jamie actually builds my motors for my Australian
No
flat track
way.
bikes here.
Cool.
Yeah. So like, and he was over in America with us not too long ago with his son Max, and they
Yeah.
stayed at our house road racing over there.
I haven't seen Jamie for years and years, but living in Curry, that they always had that super cool, their own practice track just off the road, just there that they rode a lot on. So, do you have a facility back at home, mate, where you ride back in Forbes? Have you got where you're always on the bike, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, we got three flat tracks out the front, all different like size ones. We got like a Daytona replica, then we got sort of like a bit bigger short track, and then a smaller one as well. And then also we actually have a motocross track as well for doing a bit of cross training.
So, do you have a bike back here that's very similar to what you ride over there, or is it just a motorcycle? Is a motorcycle to some degree for you?
No, my race bikes here in Australia are nearly the exact same as over there.
Okay.
Like I have Yamaha Australia gives me a bike and I get a lot of parts from the team over in the US and just bring them all back and put them on so that I have the exact same bike basically so that I can ride here and test and do as much as I can here. So when I go back over there, I'm ready to go.
What an amazing opportunity for you, mate, with Estenson Racing, to have Americans investing in Aussies. That's a big deal because like it's almost like being a really great baseball player and being signed by the Yankees. AMA is a very American sport, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's really good too because you can make like all the racing so big and there's so many people involved where you can make a living out of it doing what you like love.
So how do you go with nutrition, mate? Americans have got a different understanding of food and coffee.
Yeah.
You'd obviously have to be pretty disciplined. Do you have a nutritionist on the road, or are you just making sensible choices, mate?
No, I just sort of do it all myself. America's definitely a lot harder than Australia to stay
Yeah,
healthy for sure.
yeah.
All the food's a lot different over there, but like I just sort of you stick away from all that bad food and just go out for dinner a lot. Like Texas Roadhouse is my favorite.
Is it?
Eat a lot of steak and stuff. So, but just sort of just got to be like careful what you're eating over there and just like keep an eye out for some stuff. But it's sort of a little harder, but it's not too bad. Like you can make like stuff work and cooking at home and stuff just so you're getting good foods a lot better.
Tommy, I've noticed this, no matter what sport I'm involved in the States, whether it's sprint car racing, whether it's off-road racing at Crandon, whether it's stock car racing at Boone, whether it's flat track or motocross or any of those things, I wish that the world saw more of America as the race fan because American race fans are phenomenal, mate. Like they're just good. They love a good competition. They prefer we didn't beat them, but they're respectful of the ones that do. And I wish that more people saw that America that you get to see because Americans are very generous, very kind, and very supportive. Hey man, you want a beer or you want a soda or you want to like they'll open up their homes to you. And I think people outside America don't see what you and I see.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like there's a lot of Americans out there and they're such nice people and also like the fans they're lot they just want to come in and just enjoy the racing and stuff where so in Australia you don't really get as many people wanting to do that where over there definitely they get bigger crowds and they there's so many people that are just like passionate in watching racing and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And then also like a lot of people like sort of like around the pits and stuff in America, like everyone wants to help each other and stuff,
yeah.
which is a lot better.
I think Aussies love sport, Americans live it.
Yeah.
There's a big difference, and you only have to go to a college football game or something like that, or an NFL. Like the whole country stops for NFL Sunday, like it's a
Yeah.
thing, right? It's like the NFL plays on Sunday, college football's on Saturday, high school football's on Friday. Like it's their whole week is planned around sport, and it's not just going to a game; it's an event. Everything that Americans tend to do is an event.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like the everything's like so big over there as well. Like everything like here is sort of like small and you don't always hear about it where if there's someone over this big sport, like sort of something going on, everyone knows about it and everyone's watching and there's just so many more people like enjoying it and like actually wanting to do it and stuff. For sure.
So you're sitting up with a pillow behind you at the moment. Probably people haven't probably missed that. You've been in surgery only just recently, like in the last couple of weeks. Or what's going on? And are you going to be okay for heading back to the States?
Yeah, no, I had to have a surgery to, I had scoliosis and had to have that fixed. It got sort of got like a little bad and had to get that all fixed up, but now I'm recovering, been going pretty good too. I've been up walking around doing most of my normal stuff again now, getting a lot better and I'll be back normal ready for next year.
What is your home base? Where's the team based? Where do you live? Where do you spend most of your time?
Yeah, when we're over there, the team's based in Owensboro, Kentucky,
Hmm,
and we have like a little
cool.
property just outside Owensboro. It's in Calhoun. And we actually live next to like road racer Jake Lewis, and we've become like really close friends. And he helps us out a lot, and we train with him and stuff too. So it's really good. And we built like a little barn dominium there. So it's
Nice.
like a little
Yeah.
workshop house. Yeah, it's really good.
You cannot be in Kentucky and not go to KFC. No matter how dedicated you are to what you do with your nutrition and your fitness, Tommy, it seems sacrilegious not to drive through Kentucky and at least have Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the KFC in Australia better than over there. I don't really find it taste that good over there. Where here it tastes pretty good. I like it a lot more.
Wow, that's kind of a big thing to say that Aussies make better KFC than Americans. I'm going to leave that one off the table. So, what have you got coming up over summer here? What are you doing on the bike here?
Normally I do like there'd be Gunnedah around AFTN. I'd normally do that and Brisbane Cup and as many like little races I can, but this year I just got to stick to recovering and getting better. So I'm ready for the start of the season next year. So probably won't do as much. I'll ride at home, slowly get back into it, and I sort of want to put all my focus on being ready for the start of the season next year.
I wish one of my mates, Richard Rowley, is tuned in watching as one of the best motorsport cinematographers and TV cameramen I've ever worked with. He used to work on SBS Speed Week with me back in the day and still does our sprint car stuff. And if I had a dream situation, it'd be that I had a budget to just go to America and Europe and profile all the young Aussies that are doing such a phenomenal job. When you look at all those speedway riders in Europe,
Yeah.
for a country of 30 million against superpowers like Poland and Denmark and Sweden and the UK. And then you got you and Maxi doing what you're doing, in AMA, and you got the Lawrence boys in motor. I mean, there's so many more. There's Tiger Woods and all these other
Yeah.
kids that are doing such a great job. I just wish that our sport had a bigger profile in Australia for what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'd be really good if we can like try get a lot of these kids like racing over in America and Europe and everyone to be like more seen back here in Australia. Definitely be a lot better.
So you feeling better? You're going to be back on the bike soon? Like when are you allowed to? And when's mum going to say you're allowed to get off light duties?
I'm hoping to be back after Christmas, back on a bike and start training again so I'm ready. But we still got to find out what the doctor says and all that stuff at the moment. But at the moment, I'm just like allowed to be walking around, not really lifting anything heavy, just taking it easy for the first little bit, and then I'll start back like physio and stuff in a couple of weeks.
So you don't have to clean up your room. You don't have to do your own washing. Mum's doing all that, I guess,
Yep, at the moment she is, yeah.
at the moment. I hope that's different when
When
you're 100% fit. Are you run your own life when you're over there, or you like living in laundromats all the time?
in America, where when mum's not there most of the year, it's me that has to do like my brother and my dad all the washing and stuff, and dad will do all the cooking. I'll clean and do all that stuff to make it easier for him. And my brother, he doesn't do as much. He sort of just takes the easy way, but I don't mind doing it all and keeping everything tidy.
G'day to Andrew Brett, who's tuned in. Hope he's enjoying the coverage as well. It's always good to catch up with you, mate. We met really briefly at Knoxville, but I promised you I'd get back to you at some point and talk about what you're doing because, mate, you're an AMA national champion. That is phenomenal in itself. We need to get across Tom Drane Racing on his socials, on Instagram and on Facebook as well, and go to the Progressive AMA Facebook page and website and just see how big the industry is and YouTube the hell out of this stuff. And if you get a chance, YouTube Springfield Mile because there's so much phenomenal stuff of that really amazing stuff in the 90s and the 80s where those guys are just like this, like second twist of the grip underneath the bars, like just it's insane. It's killer what you're doing, mate. You and Maxie, and a big shout out to Max Whale because Max had a great year. I think the season before. I know it's not easy to keep being competitive at the elite level, but just keep being safe, mate, and keep representing Australia. You're doing a killer job.
No, thank you very much.
Hope to see you at the Knoxville Nationals again next year, right? Let's catch up a bit earlier this time when I'm not at the very start of the night. Let's catch up at some point. If the Esto boys bring you out there, let's get out and I'd love to do a cool shoot with the race car and your bikes or something. We need to do some cool promo.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'd be cool. I definitely want to come back out to watch it again, and hopefully it works out the way we can. We're not like clashing with a race or something. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll work. Get
I,
back
w-
out there to watch it.
I want to come to one of your races, man. Somehow I want to be. I've been saying to Max the last couple of years I want to come out, but it just never seems that I can fit that into the schedule. But get around all of his socials. He's doing an amazing job. Good luck with your little bro, and well done to mum and dad for helping to fuel your dreams. And big shout out to Estonson Racing for giving a young Aussie kid out of Forbes in New South Wales a chance to ride against the best and beat the best in America. That is badass in itself. Keep resting up, mate, and I look forward to catching up with you during the summer, okay?
Sounds good.
Good to see you, Tommy.
Too.
Appreciate it, mate. Tommy Drane, very exciting young AMA flat track racer. The sport is huge over in the States, and Tommy just wrapped up an AMA national championship, which is huge. You need to Google it and find out more about it. Have a great weekend, everybody. I look forward to seeing you again soon. See ya.